What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and my stories are of RPG horror stories from the popular subreddit. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the stories right now. Why you never DM for a group of high schoolers? Before we start, here are the names I will use for the people in my story. Experienced player, Warlock. New player 1, Paladin. New player 2, Druid. New player 3, Fighter. Co-DM, CDM. So I was the first time DM. I decided to run Lost Minds of Fandelver, and I found on XP to level 3's Discord on a looking for game channel, a person looking for a DM for him and 3 other players. I agreed to do DM for them. Oh, XP to level 3, I love XP to level 3. But this is a horror story, so it shudders to make me think that things will go wrong. A few days later, I went on voice chat to talk to the group of the ones who invited me. Mentioned there were 2 other DMs before me, but they left and ghosted us before we got to play, said Warlock. I'm like, okay, sure. And well, I was a bit skeptical, because if it was 1 DM that ghosted the group, maybe the DM got salty over the group, but 2 DMs that ghosted the group? Not sus. Fighter asked me if it's okay for his character to be racist. Huh? This part may be my fault, because I said he could be a racist, but only if there was a reason to be a racist to another race. Me saying that was a big mistake. We'll get to that later when we talk about character sheets and how we're going to play. Yeah, DM, no. Having a distrust and having a concern over certain things I think is fine because you're being cautious. If you're like cautious of like tieflings or drow or yuan-ti or whatever, I think that's perfectly fine because I mean it feels part of your character as long as you're not being an abusive asshole, right? If you're being an abusive asshole, then no, that's not okay. Caution, yes. Racism, not yes. No, that's a big no. Then eventually everyone made their sheets. Warlock and Druid had decent characters, while Paladins was iffy, but minor iffy. Then we got to... This is so difficult to read, no punctuations. I'm trying my best, I'm sorry. Paladin was iffy, but minor iffy. Then we got to the Fighter, who it says in his background is a loudmouth shithead who's big racist. Now you see why I said it's my bad for telling him he can have some racism. But it's okay, DM, you can always just turn it around by saying, hey, I want to turn it around and say no racism. DM, please tell me you backpedaled. DM, please tell me you backpedaled. Please tell me you didn't allow this. The week was coming for the game to play. Warlock pinged everyone and set a poll to ask if he can stream the session on Twitch, and I instantly shut it down. That part was resolved. But I don't know if I was paranoid due to watching too much Crit Crab and Crispy's Tavern, or these were red flags. Definitely red flags. What I did next was probably the biggest mistake, but I didn't know what to do, so last minute I found CDM, co-DM, and explained the session to him, and I got him to help me keep the players in check. Then it was time for the session to happen when I allowed the group to introduce each other. Fighter was not prepared yet when I gave them a whole month to work on the character, but he managed to figure something out. Oh yeah, I told the players, you do something dumb, you're going to have a hard time. When a goblin ambush happened, players managed to do well at the start, but the fighter intimidated the goblin, passed the intimidation check, had the goblin surrender, begging for his life in character. I tried to encourage the fighter to spare him to get info, but no, the fighter first said, I'll shove a stick up in his ass. I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'm not gonna allow you to do that. Then he immediately tried to argue to me about it in a little bit while he wanted to embarrass the goblin because it's funny. And still no, but he cut the goblin's arm off and he bled out. Signs of a murder hobo. Tendencies that the party had a hard time fighting a goblin. A few death saving throws happened. It was a bad idea to have 8 goblins for 4 players. Oh, this is difficult to read. Okay, like listen, nothing against the DM or anything, the story is pretty good, but like punctuations, they help. They hurt my brain. There's actually a really fun app that I found that I use regularly called Grammarly, not sponsored or anything, but basically you install that thing, right? And it literally checks through everything right and gives you like hints or like advice of like, hey, you should probably put a comma here, or this sentence feels a little bit run on, break it up into 2 sentences. It's really helpful for processing information. Oh my god, my head is having a hard time, but we're trying to make through. We're trying to get through the story. Let's do it. I want to see how this ends. Everyone survived. Co-DM had the 4 alive ones back off and go because he wanted to keep the party alive and not kill them. Then they went on a rest and leveled to level 2. Took forever to get the level 2 stuff, like 15 minutes. Then we continued to the Krogmaw hideout part. Now I, the new DM, had trouble trying to approach the cavern. Since it's theater of mind, co-DM decides to not give me tips on how to run it, but he ran it like the main DM, making it feel like a spectator at that point, and that's where I messed up getting a co-DM in the first place. Too many cooks in the kitchen kind of make a mess, and I completely understand that. But if you do have a co-DM, I've had sessions where I ran a co-DM. I was being a co-DM, and I had people co-DM for me. You have to, at the end of the day, decide before the session starts who takes what responsibility. I feel like there was maybe not a lot of communication between DM and co-DM about who's doing what. I don't know. Anyway, party split. 2 of them warned the bugbear, and the other 2 went to the rebellion to gain Bootlicker's trust. Yes, Bootlicker was the leader of the rebellion's nickname, due to licking a character's butt during the ambush. Gross, I know. The party met. They made the bugbear hostile Bootlicker kill the bugbear boss. Then the whole party killed all the goblins, but the Bootlicker and the fighter want to kill the Bootlicker. Fighter wants to kill the... This is hurting my brain so much. Oh my god, okay. Anybody that's writing RPG horror stories, punctuations are very important. Once you write what you wrote, read through it. If you're unsure what it is, ask your friend to read through it and, like, you know, give you a bit of suggestion, maybe an editing or something. Or hey, use that app that I mentioned, Grammarly. Like, I want to get through the story, and it does seem like it's, you know, I mean, it's kind of over, honestly, but it's difficult to read. Session ended, and I concluded that everyone had fun, but was not having fun. I don't know. It's because they are high schoolers at the age of being edgy, or as being a bit of a sourpuss. But I decided to have a co-DM to DM the game. I leave. Told him the game did not click for me, calmly, and he agreed to take the game over, and I announced it. Co-DM asked me if I would just be a player, but I'm like, no, I don't want to be a player, since the group just did not vibe with me, so I left the server. Kind of feeling like I'm not fit to do, but I am not sure my mind is still over the place. Please let me know if I'm an idiot, for what your thoughts, please. Yeah, this seems like a mess, and it just seemed like to devolve further and further and further, and you didn't really take a control of the story. You kind of allowed the co-DM to take stuff, and good on co-DM to help keep things running and stuff. They're probably doing their best, just trying to help out where they could, right? Listen, don't treat it as you messed up, right? Everybody makes mistakes, and the best thing to do with mistakes is once you do the mistake, you learn from them, and you move forward to make less mistakes. And that's it. Treat it as a learning lesson. The high schoolers are to blame for being edgy and one guy wanting to be a racist shithead, sure, but like, everybody is kind of at fault here, so take it as a learning lesson, you know? My brother's friend made me hate being a DM. Sorry this is so long. I'm not good at shortening things, and some things I don't think I can shorten, as it would lose a lot of pertinent information. I'll put a TLDR at the end though. So this happened when I was relatively new to D&D. This story happened over the course of 2 years, and 2 campaigns that both ended up getting scrapped. The players in the story are my little brother, 12, his friend, 13, and me, 15, who is an asexual lesbian. This is important later. The setup to this story is that my brother said that he wanted to play D&D, and I had been looking for a way to play, as the D&D club at my school had been shut down because there was no teacher to supervise the club. So when he said he wanted to play, I was ecstatic and offered to DM for him, but he would need at least another player. My brother invited his friend, who semi knows how to play and who also doesn't live that far away, to come and join, to which he said yes. Everything is going good so far. We have a session 0 where they make their characters. My brother made a fighter half-elf named Cloud, who had lost his memory when his village was attacked, and his goal was to recover all of his memories. That's basically the Final Fantasy VII character, which, I mean, that's fine. Listen, any sort of character you make sometimes get influenced by a character from popular media, and that's okay. When people want to make a barbarian that's just like Kratos from God of War, that's cool. If you want to make a fighter that's just like Cloud, that's cool too. Listen, it's your character, have fun with it, whatever makes it fun, right? His friend made a bard, wood elf, named Ara, who just wanted to explore the world. Then there was my DMPC, who was a druid, a lightfoot halfling named Athiana, who was a dragon priest. I got that idea from a D&D podcast, but a prophecy that both Cloud and Ara would bring back the dragon of the world, homebrew, to end the fighting between the metallic and chromatic dragons. From this point on, I'm going to use their character names for their names. Once we got the characters ready, we went straight into playing because as we were putting their characters together, I was writing more of the story and fleshing out the background and lore of the world. So, the session starts, everything is going well. Cloud is drinking apple juice at a tavern, and Ara is drunk after one ale. Athena walks in and talks to them, telling them that she should have been looking for them, and explains her prophecy that Cloud and Ara were going to be the heroes who would save the world. After telling them this, she leaves, saying she is going to give them time to process. She goes up into a room that she paid for. As she does so, Ara decides it would be a good idea to try and sneak into her room. I was immediately opposed to the idea and told Ara's player that, but he said he didn't have any bad intentions, so I let him try. And to no one's surprise, the level 1 bard that had a -1 to stealth failed his check to get into her room unnoticed. This caused Athena to throw a dagger at him due to the fact that he snuck into her room, after which they talked and Ara apologized. The rest of the session continued without a problem. The next session, they traveled to Athena's village where they talk with the village elder, and Ara states that they want to try and fight the village elder, to which I responded out of character that she is level 15, 3 druid, 3 bard, 3 cleric, 1 fighter, 1 ranger, 1 rogue, and 3 wizard. Whoa, that's a lot of classes there. When I told Ara this, he got upset, saying there was no reason for an NPC to be that strong. I responded stating that she is the person who teaches most of the people in her village their classes along with being the healer of the community. Ara huffs a little when I give both Ara and Cloud the homebrew magic items I'd made for them. Cloud got a bell that when you ring the people in a radius of 5 foot plus 5 per every level has to make a DC 15 wisdom check or be charmed. I know it sounds overpowered for level 1 characters, but I thought that the fact you have to be within at least 10 feet of the creature was a good offset, and my brother seemed pleased to have received this, and I also gave him a set of woodcarver's tools because he said he wanted to work on a little project throughout the campaign. Ara got a flute that she rolled a performance check, and based on what she got, an effect of the table below would happen. 1 out of 5, nothing would happen. 6 out of 10, vines would pop up and look pretty, but wouldn't do anything, and as soon as you ended your song, they would die. 11 to 15, the vines would start wrapping around a person or creature of the user's choice, and depending on the duration of the song, they could grapple the target. 16 to 20, you do a D8 damage and the creature is grappled, and you do a D4 bludgeoning damage at the end of your subsequent turn. On a natural 20, you do double for 1 turn. 21 plus, you do a D12 plus bard level of damage, and if you kill them, then you can use them as a puppet for a turn. Those are some overpowered homebrew items. I mean, the writer is young, sure, and they're trying to give him some sort of a leeway to, I don't know, use in combat or maybe reward them. I mean, giving magical items to your players early on is always nice because you always want to make sure you give them something to look forward to more magical items and everything. But they got to be balanced to things. A flute that can literally kill somebody and then puppeteer them like a puppet, that's very overpowered. And a bell that can charm somebody, combine the two together, just keep playing the flute over and over on the charm person until you get 21 plus, and then you can just suddenly puppeteer the entire village as puppets. That's, I feel like Ara is gonna abuse that, and maybe Cloud might abuse that, but I'm hoping not. I hope not. As you could probably tell, that one of the magic items is better than the other. But Cloud didn't care that he has objectively worse than Ara's, so who got upset? If he guessed Ara, then you would be correct. He was upset that Cloud got a magic item and a normal item. After talking to him, he got him to let go by explaining that his magic item can be very overpowered. And to make sure they were both okay with what they got, I gave Cloud tools because it was something that he wanted to incorporate into his character, but had no way to get it during character creation. Ara let it go for the time being, but it will bring it up constantly in later sessions. Once I told him that they could go and wander around the town, Ara followed Athena and starts flirting with her. Athena tells him that he isn't acting like the hero of a great prophecy, which was me trying to tell him that he should stop. Ara, however, didn't stop and kept going on about making flirty comments to Athena. I then, out of game, told him to stop or I was going to end the session. He again didn't stop, so the session ended. He was rather upset. I mean, good thing for ending the session, not just entertaining it. I get it, yeah, he's 13 and stuff and immature and everything, but I mean, boundaries are important, but I mean, they're kids. I don't know. This is a difficult thing to comment on. How do you explain to a 13-year-old that boundaries are a thing? I mean, I guess by talking to them directly, I guess? Oh, this is gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a mess. I just feel it. I explained to him that acting like that made me feel uncomfortable due to the fact that I don't like guys, to which Aura responded, "I'm not flirting with you, I'm flirting with Athenia." I reiterated my discomfort and said that even though it is the character, I still feel weird still having to roleplay for what I felt were obvious reasons. After he didn't stop, I ended the session. Aura huffed for a little bit and then gave up, and he and my brother went to the basement to play video games. As we kept going in the campaign, Aura would flirt, try and get into Athenia's room when he stopped at an inn for the night, and many other things that made me uncomfortable. In my opinion, this is bad enough. However, he also tried to flirt with just about any youngish female NPC that I introduced. The two main ones that he tried really hard to flirt with after Athenia, still tried to make passes at her, but she shut him down every time, were named Vivian and Ava. Okay, at that point I just introduced a bunch of NPCs that are just straight up unflirtable. Constructs made out of stone. Old people, I don't know, ugly, I don't know, fat bastards or something. I don't know. At that point, you just do what you gotta do to get this player to calm down or something and pay attention to the story. Like I said, this is gonna be complicated because everybody involved is young. Vivian was Cloud's childhood best friend who had been looking for him since the village was attacked. They met her one day when they were passing through a village, and she recognized Cloud. So there's a pretty big roleplay moment between the two as they're reunited. She told Cloud some stuff about his past. Now, Aura at this point had a much lore, but it was just session 4 and each session was about 30 minutes to an hour, and by session 4 he still haven't given me his backstory, like anything at all. All I knew was his parents were dead, and you can imagine that I can't do very much with this. Did that stop him from being angry that he got no backstory lore hooks at that point? No. So in an effort to calm the situation, when the session was over, I had him stay back for about 20 minutes as we made a rough draft for his backstory that he could flesh out over time, but so that I had at least something to work off with. But when I did give him a lore hook, which was his home, a mountain village, had been completely abandoned as he explored, they found where the people of the village could be. Now, what I thought was going to happen was they were going to explore and try to find out what happened. Nope. Arya then said, "Okay, that's enough for me," turned down the mountain and left. He freaking left the lore that he had been super upset about not having last session. You can only go so far with a player that's just not interested in any sort of backstory hook. You try your best, and nothing you give him is good enough. If Arya's not gonna tell you what they want, then how could you expect to get something? It's... I mean, yeah, Arya is young and immature. But yeah, I feel you, DM. This sounds painful, very painful. I took a break for a minute because I had worked hard on giving him some lore that it was my plan for that session. It was just straight down the drain. And after a bit of not knowing what to do, I ended the session prematurely, not wanting to give them a half-baked encounter. The other NPCs that he tried weirdly hard to flirt with. Her name was Ava, but she was someone they met when going through a purist town, meaning that they despised multiclassing and thought that everyone could only be one class and to multiclass was sinful. This town was also full of racists who thought that anyone who wasn't a human was a monster. Ava was the only person who was willing to interact with them, and enduring, they got some upgraded gear. Ara would flirt with Ava and try to get her to go with them, and she refused, stating that she needed to try and change the townspeople's minds. Ara, out of character, got upset that I was trying to ruin his fun. I ended the session while he was complaining, and I had a talk with him out of character that if he didn't stop, I was going to end the campaign completely and then not DM again. Both him and my brother were upset, and he promised that he wouldn't do that anymore. Nevertheless, I still ended that session. At our next session, less than a week later, so that it was very likely that he forgot. He did it again. Okay, so, I mean, does a friend like you or something? I mean, that's the only reason why I think he's been so persistent. I mean, the kid's definitely persistent, but why? Maybe he has like a little crush on you. That's the only thing I can think of. Little guy has a little crush on you, but like, the player is too young, too immature to understand they should probably cut it out. And every time you ask them to, they're too mature to understand in a tiny little kid brain to stop. that this is not okay. You should have just ended the campaign at that point. I don't know, it probably wasn't worth it, but I mean, there's way more to this anyway, so let's see where this rabbit hole goes, I guess. And I kept true to my promise. So when he started to flirt with Athenia, I looked at both Ara and Cloud and said, looks like we're done here. And I started packing up my stuff. Ara started protesting, saying, I forgot, and you're overreacting. And when I didn't stop, he retorted to name-calling. He called me a horrible DM, a snowflake for not being able to put up with his flirting text. I stayed firm in my boundary, picked the dice, books, paper, and computer, and took them up to my room. Now, you would think I learned my lesson, not DM for him again, right? Wrong. About a year later, I really wanted to play D&D again. And I talked to my brother, and he asked if Ara could play also. I very reluctantly said sure, but I was going to set even firmer boundaries. He got 3 strikes before I was kicking him from the campaign. I was planning on keeping track, but I didn't need to, because the campaign never made it past session 1. So when Ara was over one day, I asked if he wanted to do some D&D with me and Cloud, and he very excitedly said yes. I didn't know what kind of game I wanted to run at that point, so I asked the boys what kind of game they wanted to play in. Cloud said steampunk, and I started to think and was like, that sounds cool. Then Ara says fantasy, and I wasn't really thrilled about that, so I came up with what I thought was a good idea. The campaign would be essentially my brother and Ara would make characters that lived in those separate worlds, that was fantasy and steampunk respectively. Ara initially wanted to play a bard, but I said no, as I wanted them to try to get out of their comfort zone with characters. He was upset about this and started to argue with me, but then I showed him the subclass of wizard that I thought he would like, which was the blade singer subclass. After some talking, he agreed. My brother played an artificer named Alistair. Ooh, blade singer. I kinda want to try playing a blade singer. It's basically a melee wizard. Basically goes into like this song, and they get like higher AC and they could do more damage and stuff, and it's just really cool, and I kind of want to try it myself. But anyway, so we had character creation out of the way, and the new and like the premise of the campaign. Then we have session 1. My brother goes first and had some roleplay with his family, and he's going to go out with his sister to get coffee. But he goes through the door to leave the house, he gets transported. Now, Ara, his character, had a boyfriend/fiancé. I can't remember, it was a bit ago. So Ara was traveling with his boyfriend, and they went to a new town to perform as his boyfriend was a bard. I gave them some touching moments, and I wanted to make sure that both characters had motivations to get back to their homes. At one point, Ara says they go to the back of the carriage and get in bed together. I, out of game, tell him that I will not roleplay a makeout session, and I feel that this is where he's trying to go. Ara assures me that this is not the case, however it is. Starts going into detail. Strike one, I tell him, and then have him transported. Both him and my brother got teleported at the same time and got teleported into an apartment. The owner's name was Star. She was a tiefling paladin. Hey, another tiefling, cool. She goes to see what all the noise is about, and Ara and Cloud, Alistair, are being kind of loud, as you know, they got taken away from their homes, duh. Ara's first question was if she was wearing clothes. To which I say yes, and I'm contemplating if that was a strike. When he gave me a heavy sigh, I said strike 2. He protested and asked Cloud his opinion, to which he said it shouldn't count. So I took it away. After a bit, the NPC decided to take them to the High Council that had outlawed magic that was too strong. So she put him in handcuffs, and Ara said, ooh, kinky, I like it. That was strike 2. And there was no debate, even though he argued I stated that making comments like that went directly against what he had talked about. He sulks about it for a bit. Then when his character wasn't staying in line with Star wanted, I rolled intimidation and got a natural 20 with a +3 to intimidation. So I said she threatened him with a flavored divine favor as a taser. So naturally he said, what if I like that? I looked at him and said, 2.5 strikes. That wasn't horrid, but it crossed the line. Okay, listen, he's immature, clearly, and yes, I kind of think it's a little bit funny, because somebody puts handcuffs on you, you go, ooh, kinky. It's immature humor, it is genuinely immature humor, but hey listen, it's progress, there's no flirting going on. There's no direct interaction like that. I think silly jokes and commentary, especially if you're more of a witty character, that I think is fine. I mean, yeah, I get it, it's a little weird. This is a lot more complicated when it has to do with kids. If it was like adults, right? Everybody is like of age, right? And somebody was like, ooh, kinky. Yeah, that'd be hilarious as hell. I would love that. But like, this is weird because it's kids, right? I mean, I guess they have their own humor as well, and haha sex jokes, you know. I've had that. I still haven't grown out of that. I still think haha sex jokes, because to me, they're genuinely funny. Because I love cringe. I adore cringe. I bask in cringe. I drink cringe every morning. I love cringy things. And sex jokes are cringy, but to me, they're really funny. I don't know, it's weird. Let's see what Ari gets the third strike. They keep going, and Ari is getting more and more unruly. Side note, they could escape. It was about a DC-12 sleight of hand check, and Star was level 3, and Ari and Alistair were both level 2, so they could have beat her. And with these, I felt as if they had all their equipment. But Ari kept antagonizing Star, so she tases him. Wanna guess what he did? He moaned. Gross. Ew. I promptly closed my books, packed everything up, and kicked him out of my room, as that was where we did the session. Along with telling him that I would never DM for him again, and told my brother that if he wanted to play them, he needed to find other friends to play without me, shut my door. Sorry this was so long, but these were the main things that culminated in me ending my DMing journey with that particular friend of my brother's. There were some other issues that I'll put below. He got angry when I told him if he didn't stop messing with his dice and rolling them unnecessarily, I would take his next roll and open to that page in the monster's manual. During an encounter, my brother agreed that Cloud would throw Ara at a flying demon. When Ara almost died, he got angry. He got upset that I couldn't give him squirrely Fey ancestry of powers. He would constantly try to copy Athenia in any way he could, take the same level in the same classes along with trying to also become a dragon priest. He would also get angry whenever my brother had a character moment, and he would try to insert himself into that moment. And there you have it. These were all the things that made me hate DMing, even though I actually like story building. But after about a year and a half of not playing any D&D, I'm starting to look for friends that I can play in with some capacity. TLDR, brother's friend constantly crosses my boundary of no flirting. By flirting with just about every female NPC they meet, along with begging for lore, then promptly leaving after getting a bit, causing the session to end. After a bit, my discomfort at that causes me to end the campaign. We didn't play for a bit, then when he did, had 3 strikes you're out. Used them all in the first session. He started with his moaning because he was tasered. Again, sorry this was so long. I didn't intend for it to be as long as this needed up being. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to read it away. And I hope you find yourself a nice group of friends along your, age range and stuff that aren't immature kids. I mean, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I can be pretty mature when it comes to sexual humor stuff, but I wouldn't go that far, right? I gotta figure out boundaries and stuff, and clearly you're just playing with a bunch of immature 13-year-olds, but immature 13-year-olds will do immature 13-year-old things. So what did you expect? Do you expect them to be mature and adult about it? Probably best to play within your age range because y'all gonna be meshing a lot better, right? So if you're already adult, play with other adults, if you're 18, play with other 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, whatever. The high school buddies, college buddies, whatever you're doing. I don't know how old you are right now, but play within your age range. And I mean, you'll probably have a much better time than playing with somebody immature. You'll probably run into more immature people, but at that point you could just be like, hey, you're not willing to follow boundaries and stuff, then don't play, because we don't want you here. Simple as that. Boundaries are important. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.